Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Odyssey House Journals. It's an honest and sometimes raw, although we try to stay away from bad language, right? Just a little coaching there. Yeah. An honest and sometimes raw look at the issues of addiction and recovery. And it's one of the most watched and listened to podcasts dealing with those issues. You can watch it on the Odyssey YouTube channel, and you can listen to it on any kind of podcast platform. And we're also on, and one of the reasons we can't use bad language is we're on an AM radio station here in Salt Lake City, and they are governed by the FCC, and they would be in trouble. And it's KKAT AM 860 every Saturday and Sunday morning at 10 o'clock, and they rebroadcast this. So that's why we got to keep it clean, gang. I'm Randall Carlisle. My co-host is Nicole Slack, and our guest today is George. Welcome, George.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I was thinking. You know, we always talk about your background and what got you in trouble and how you're succeeding. And I was thinking about the fact, and Nicole, you run into this all the time because you deal with people at admissions. And one of the first questions people have is, how long's the program, right?
Yeah.
And what do you tell them?
I always tell them it's as long as you need it to be. It's your journey. Everyone's is different. Everyone has a different journey. So some people are a year and some people are 90 days. And they, of course, hear 90 days, and that's it.
That's it. Yeah. I only have to be here for 3 months.
Yeah, right? And I'm always very, just stay open-minded because it could change at any time, too. Like, my journey, I wanted it to be short and get through it, and I ended up in there for 7 months, and it's just, I needed it, so. And
that brings me back to, and I have a criticism of many of the for-profit programs when they only have like a 28-day or a 30-day program. And I find it hard to believe that we're all in recovery. I was a functional alcoholic for decades, okay? And you were only, 4 years?
Yeah.
And George, how long?
About 8 years.
Okay. So we're talking about behaviors, mine for decades, yours for 8, yours for 4, and saying, go into this place, and in 30 days, we're going to turn you around, and you're never going to do this again.
Yeah.
Which is sort of hard to believe, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I just look at that and go, the work, good for you if you can do that work in 30 days. I wasn't even aware of the work I had to do for the first 4 months. So.
Which brings us to George, and you and I were talking just before we started recording this. How long have you been in Odyssey this time around?
I've been in Odyssey I was in residential for 5 months, and now I'm going on a month in the outpatient program.
So when you finally graduate, how long will it have been from beginning to end?
I estimate about 9 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
Outpatient can be the same, though, as inpatient.
Yeah.
Some people are in outpatient for extended amount of time. Some people try to get it done in the 3 months.
The 3 months, yeah.
That's the hard thing that you deal with, and I do when people say, how long's the program? Because we don't have a set time limit, and so you could only use an average and say in 3 to 5 months, maybe, something like that.
Yeah.
But why does it take so long to get through a program? And I would argue that's one of the reasons we're so successful. It's also one of the reasons why people leave, right?
Yeah.
Because it is a long time. Why do you think it takes so long?
Well, for me, I was on that same boat of wanting to, get out, boom, boom, boom. I was planning on doing the 3 months before I got in there. But then I got my therapist, and she kind of made it a point, I don't transition you out at disco. You have to go as a Voyager. And then I was like, okay, cool. I'm down with that. So, but I was kind of disappointed at first because I wanted to get out, but as time went on, you learn to love the people you're in recovery with, and you learn to just love your recovery. when I was as I was transitioning out, I was kind of scared to leave because I was going to miss the people. And so for me, the main reason why it took so long is because I didn't want to leave my peers, because I was having fun with them. The house was having fun. We were, doing the things necessary to have a fun recovery. So, yeah.
Fun, recovery?
Yeah.
Those are two words that people don't always put together.
Yeah. That for me, that's what I based my recovery around, is fun, because I believe if you're not having fun in your recovery, you're not recovering. You're not happy. You know what I mean? So that's just what I think.
Nicole, why did you change your mind after you were in for a little while and you thought you were going to get out quickly, and then you stayed longer?
I think I got to the root of why I was abusing alcohol. At like 4 months, it was like, oh, it's not because I just want to escape. Why do I want to escape? And when I realized that, I was like, okay, let's do the work. Like, I want to get to the root of that so that I don't get back to where I was. Because I had tried not drinking,
Right.
and that didn't work. It would be months. I did like 8 months of just like, I didn't feel like drinking. I didn't want to. But then the second something hard happened in my life, it was right back to drinking. So I think that's what I realized was, I need to get to the why, or I'm not going to stop.
Why do you think, Pete, you've seen people come and go? You have as well. A lot of people who, we call it LACA, leaving against clinical advice. Why do most people leave? Is there one reason that you can come up with?
No.
For me, it's just they're not ready to buy into the program.
Okay.
With everything that comes with Odyssey, they're not ready to change their mindset and their criminal ways. A lot of people look at it as a snitch program, whatever, but it's not anything. It's just getting you out of those behaviors to prevent you from going back to using, and that's what I feel like they're not ready to buy into the program yet.
You were a house supervisor. Did you notice? I noticed when I was a navigator, a lot of the people left right after they got an intervention.
Exactly, yeah.
So I would say the majority's right after an intervention. Just
we use a lot of terms in Odyssey that people watching may not understand. So intervention is, I guess we should point out that we have different levels in the program that people go through. So an intervention is what?
An intervention is at any point in your program if you are held accountable to an action you did, and you're held accountable by your peers, and it's not like a room full of people. It's just a couple of your peers sit you down and say, hey, you were in the kitchen when you weren't supposed to be, or whatever, and this is your 4th time doing it. What will help you do better at this behavior? And then we talk to them about the behavior, and then they get like a 5-page paper on, why rules are important and what's causing you to break this rule or what. And usually right after that is a LACA.
And I think that goes back to the concept of instant gratification, and dealing with reality of the outside world sober as opposed to getting high. And I mean, I can relate. If anything unfair at work ever happened, I would go home and start drinking, and I'd say, damn them. I can say damn, it's okay. That's an okay word with the FCC. And it would always be because of allegedly what they did to me, and then that's how I dealt with it. And that was my go-to mechanism, and instant gratification. So if you're working and you're at a certain level and somebody calls you out in our program or in any program, then it's like, oh, gee, it's not fair.
Yeah. I know that well because that's happened to me. I was the house coordinator, and there's an incident that happened in one of our groups, and 2 of the peers kind of got into it, and we didn't write our encounters, holding those peers accountable for their actions, and then I ended up getting busted back to Compass Senior, and yeah, I was like, that's not fair. Da, 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 da. I was this close to just walking out, but then I stopped at the border of where we're considered lock-in, and decided to go back and talk to my case manager, and she helped me a lot to stay. And later on, I got my level back, so it was a good thing I stayed.
And see, I think that's a great learning experience because, in real life, I used booze, but in real life, it's pretty counterproductive if something unfair or what you think is unfair to you happens, and then you say, okay, I'm leaving.
Yeah.
I mean, you'd be in a bunch of different jobs.
Yeah.
That's why I think it's a behavior modification program. It's not fighting your addiction. It's not that you drink, what causes you to drink, what causes you to run, what causes you to feel that intensely about something, and dealing with that. And so, yeah, sometimes I got interventions where I was like, you're joking. I had no control over that. Or I let, you can't leave your medication out. I left my inhaler in my pocket and I had a restart, which is hard as a disco, which is disco is like the level where some people can leave, but I chose to stay through Navigator. And I was a disco, and it was such a silly thing to leave my inhaler. And I was just like, you are kidding me. But that's the first one where I, instead of like I immediately was like, oh, forget this. And then like a second later, it's okay. It's going to be okay. Yeah. I'm going to have this intervention.
Just 1 week.
It's just 1 week. It's okay that I messed up, and I did mess up. I left my inhaler in my pocket, and it wasn't anyone else's fault but mine, and it is super silly to me. But yeah, people shouldn't leave their medication out. So I finally learned to cope with that, and it was so nice to see myself do it properly. So I think you get to the point where you are okay with your interventions.
And I should point out, this podcast is not aimed at promoting Odyssey House. It's just that we're all more familiar with the Odyssey House program than we are with some of the other programs. And there are other great programs for people to go through, although I still disagree with the 30-day program, just my own personal thought. But each program works differently. Some programs, maybe our program isn't right for someone, but maybe another program would be right for someone. And I think people need to find out, how a program works, what their goal is. And I like what you said, that we're not an anti-drug or a drug control program. We're a behavior modification program. So what kind of behaviors? Let's talk a little about your past, George. What?
So growing up, I was raised right,
Really?
Yeah, my parents taught me well, grew up in the LDS faith, and just, I was what you call the golden boy of my family.
Wow.
I played football, did well in football. I had big dreams to go far in that. I served in an LDS mission in South Africa, Cape Town. Did that for 2 years, but when I got back, growing up, of course, you got your friends, and you always kind of get involved in things, and I got involved in fighting with people from the Glendale area, and is just immature stuff. Thought I was cool because I was fighting against other people, got involved in gangs and stuff, and then I kind of cleaned up and then was able to go on my mission. And then when I got back, I think that's when I got tempted the most with, all these things. I went to Snow College and started drinking there with some of my friends from where I'm from. And then it just started going down here from there. I was drinking, getting drunk. I got kicked out of Snow College for fighting. And then just the drinking just kept getting worse and worse, drinking with my buddies. That led to doing coke. And then what got me into doing meth was probably, I used, this is just an excuse for me testing things out, but it was because a girl, I saw a Snapchat of her and another guy, and that just killed me. But in all reality, I didn't accept the fact that she wasn't mine anymore, and I kind of used that as an excuse to go and try meth. And I was with my buddy, and we're in one of our friends' apartments, and we were just doing coke, and then next thing you know, he's like, let's do this, and I was like, no. And then finally I just gave into it. But yeah, from high school all the way to now is, I was always raised right, but you know, what one thing my dad always taught me is like, we'll teach you the correct principles, but it's up to you to govern yourself. And I, chose to go a different path.
Not govern yourself.
Yeah, chose to let the drugs.
So meth was your drug of choice?
Yeah.
And you had issues with the criminal justice system?
Yeah. So when I started using meth, that's when I started going to jail and stuff. I've got like 23 bookings.
23?
Yeah.
Wow.
And, just typical tweaker stuff, stealing cars, running away from the police, going on high-speed chases, resisting arrest, all those things. And all those things I would have never done
Sober.
The drug can really make you think you're something you're really not. And so... Yeah.
People don't understand that when you're under the influence of a drug or alcohol, you're looking at life entirely different. And if you think, leading police on a chase is a logical behavior because they're trying to stop you, at the time, it probably seemed like it was the right thing to do.
Yeah, and growing up, my dad, he would always tell me, if you ever get involved with the police, always be honest with them. And once again, I disregarded his teachings and would try running away, resisting.
Did you honestly think you were going to get away when you started the chase?
I've always wondered that, too.
So the only time I've ever really gotten caught, and I'm not proud of this or anything, but was when I was on a bike, a motorcycle. But in a car, I got away, but not in... And you'd think you'd get away on a motorcycle.
Yeah.
But... Yeah, they got
You see these chase scenes in movies with a helicopter over hovering and like 10 different police agencies from different jurisdictions trying to stop you, and you still got away.
Yeah. When I wasn't that big of a criminal to have a helicopter, but, it was just the squad.
You got to be a real badass for that one.
You got to be really a real bad criminal to have them on you like that.
And this time around in Odyssey House is your third go round with Odyssey. Mm-hmm. Explain that.
So the first time, I did cats in jail for 3 months, and that
we should tell you, if you're watching for the first time or something, CATS is a program that Odyssey administers in the Salt Lake County Jail, and it's a 3-month program that's similar to our residential treatment, only you can't go lock a...
Nope, but you sure can get interventions. But I did CATS for 3 months, and then I got out, thinking I was ready. But that night I relapsed and went straight back to doing what I was doing.
The night you got out of jail?
The night I got out of jail. And I could remember Tamara, the what is it called? She's head over CATS.
Right.
She was telling me, I don't think you should go to outpatient. She was like telling me, I don't think so. But I was like, no, I'm ready. Because I thought I was ready, But I'm very impulsive. And that night I went to a wedding, and my cousin, he was like, let's go outside. And I went outside and just,
So you failed the CATS program, then...
And then I got incarcerated again. And then I was on ankle monitor, and I relapsed. And then that's when the officer who was watching over me suggested that I go to Odyssey House. So they had me on ankle monitor. I went there, and like I told you, we went on a walk. I seen the bus coming, and I was like, peace out. And so I left, relapsed, and they got me that same day because right when I was planning on cutting the ankle monitor off, which I'm glad I didn't, they pulled up and arrested me again, and I for sure thought I was done. And so and then now I'm here trying to graduate, third time's a charm.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's sort of like Nicole asked you about the police chase. Didn't you? If you came to Odyssey, you had an ankle monitor on, and you kept walking when the bus came to take you back to the residential, didn't you know that something was going to happen?
Yeah. Because I was, in my mind, I was still thinking, I was like, all right, how am I going to do this? How am I going to cut this off so that they don't know because, when you're high, you're paranoid, and you're like, right when I cut it off, they're going to be there right then and there, So I went, and I was getting high, and I was just trying to figure out a way how I could do this. And I was like, all right, we're going to drive. I'm going to cut it and throw it out the window while we're driving so they can't find me. But right when I walked out of the house, the officer pulled up, and I was like, oh, great.
Is it an additional charge to cut off your ankle monitor?
Yeah, it's a escape charge. It's a felony 1. So I'm grateful I didn't do that, but
you took so long to come up with a game plan that
you know, like when you're high, you're like constantly overthinking stuff. You're like, how can I do this? How can I do this? And then not only that, but like you're busy trying to get higher. And so right when I walked out, they pulled up, put me in shackles, and I went to jail. So I got away from that extra charge.
So the third time's a charm, and you've been in here in the Odyssey program for
Going
7
on 6
months?
months, yeah.
And by the time you graduate, it'll be
about 9. That's where I should be able to graduate, but we'll see what happens. I'm still trying to get into the feel of outpatient, the Voyager program, because I'm the newest. Me and my other peer were the newest ones to the group, so we're just kind of getting a feel for everything.
What do you see in your future? What are you planning on?
So
hopefully never coming back to Odyssey.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully coming back, but as a
working at Odyssey.
That's one of my goals is to come in and give back to this community and to the people I know what they're going through. But right now, I'm just working, trying to pay for my license. My license is like $900 to get it back. But I plan on doing that, and then going to CDL school, get my CDL, so I can drive locally or do the long haul thing. But I'm just basically planning on staying in the recovery community. My main thing is trying to get back to Odyssey and get back to whatever house, but mainly downtown.
You seem, I've seen you at a lot of meetings and everything else, and you seem like a peaceful, lovable, nice guy, but you must have been a real badass when you were in gangs and probably won a lot of the fights, right?
The only fight I've ever lost was against my dad.
You had a physical fight with your dad?
Well, not really. I didn't swing. I'd probably die. But no, it was... nothing I'm proud of. I've gotten shot before for,
You've been shot?
Yeah.
Where?
In my arm. In my arm and in my side. I lost a friend that night as well. We went out to go collect money. This guy came, picked me up, and me and another friend, we went over there. The rules of the game is if you're going to collect, you make sure you're strapped up. and that means having a gun on you or whatever. And for me, I've never been into guns. I've always been a fighter, and so that wasn't my, like, if we were going to do that, I'm fighting. I'll beat up the people or whatever. So we ended up doing that. I was trying to not protect, but like back up one of my friends who, the guy was walking up behind him with a 22. So I was beating him up, and then my friend had another guy held up. But when he dropped the 22, my friend went to pick it up, and that's when the guy who he was watching pulled out a 40. And then that's when I heard it, and I got off the dude, and then I was like, oh, crap. And not thinking he was going to, I thought, people just waved their gun, but this guy just went, chick, chick, and then boom, boom, and just shot me. And, yeah, and it was crazy. We all fled, and when I ran, in the movies when stuff like that happens, you the people, like, they're looking up into the sky and stuff, and you're like, he's being dramatic. That I really did that. I went out, and I looked up to the street light, and I was like, did I really just get shot? And then I heard 9 more shots go off. Boom, boom, boom,
wow.
boom, 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 boom. And unfortunately, my friend, that's when he got killed. And when I heard that, I ran to the Main Street Motel, and that's where I collapsed. I lost a lot of blood, and I was in critical condition. I think the worst part of all that, of course, would be losing my friend, but then just when I was recovering, my mom had told me that she was sleeping, and then she heard my brother was yelling, no, like, George, things like that, and then my mom asked him what was going on, and then he had told her George got shot and died. And for me, having my mom have that be the first thing have her hear that I died, is just heartbreaking. Because, no son ever wants to put their mother through that, but I did. And it just tore me up. Because when I woke up, she was the first person, she was like patting my head and stuff like that. So, yeah, that was just something hard that I, had to deal with, knowing that I put my mom through that. So,
thank goodness your life has turned around.
Yeah.
You hear a story like that, and it's like, you don't have to worry about that crap anymore.
Yeah, now she's nothing but smiles now.
I'll bet. We're out of time, believe it or not. So thank you, George, for sharing your story with us. Good to see you again, Nicole.
You too.
And thank you for watching or listening to another edition of Odyssey House Journals.